After years of being ignored by my own family, I finally said something at Thanksgiving, and they were absolutely not ready to hear it. For context, I'm a 7-year-old woman, and I come from what most people would probably describe as a normal American family from the outside. Mom, dad, 2 kids, suburban house, big holiday dinners, the whole picture-perfect deal. But on the inside, the dynamic has always been very lopsided. My older brother, Mark, is 30. He has always been the center of attention. Growing up, he was the golden child. Every little thing he did was celebrated. If he made a school team, there was a party. If he got a B on a test, my parents called it great effort. Meanwhile, I could get straight A's, win awards, do everything right, and the reaction was usually something like, "That's nice, honey," followed by an immediate subject change back to Mark. It wasn't just about achievements, either. It was everyday stuff. At dinner, the conversation was always about his job, his friends, his new hobbies. If I tried to share something from my life, I would get maybe one follow-up question, and then my dad would steer everything back to my brother. If there was a conflict, I was too sensitive or overreacting, while Mark was just having a hard time or under a lot of stress. One small example that still stings. When I graduated college, no one from my family came to the ceremony. My mom said it was too far to drive on a weekday, and my dad said he couldn't get off work. They sent me a short text saying, "Proud of you," and that was it. A year later, my brother had a small promotion at his job, and they drove 3 hours to take him out to a fancy dinner and posted about it all over Facebook. Over time, I learned to make myself smaller. I stopped volunteering information about my life because it felt pointless. I'd show up for holidays, smile, bring a side dish, help in the kitchen, and then quietly fade into the background while my family focused on each other like I was just some distant relative. The thing about being ignored is that it's not one big moment. It's death by 1,000 cuts. Not being asked about your life. Not being remembered in toasts. Having your birthday brushed aside because it's a busy week. Hearing your parents say, "We're so proud of our kids," and realizing all their examples are about your brother. By the time I was 25, I had moved out, gotten my own place, my own job, my own life. I started going to therapy because I couldn't shake this constant feeling of being invisible and unimportant. My therapist helped me put words to what was happening: emotional neglect, scapegoat versus golden child dynamic, enmeshment with my brother, all of it. Even with that awareness, I kept trying with my family. I still went home for major holidays, especially Thanksgiving, because it felt like the right thing to do. Thanksgiving at my parents' house is a big deal. Lots of relatives, a huge meal, lots of tradition. Every year I would tell myself, maybe this year will be different. Maybe they'll notice I'm here. Spoiler, it never was. But last Thanksgiving was different for one reason. I had finally reached my limit. I had spent months working on myself, building a small but solid support system outside my family, and really seeing the patterns for what they were. I went into that holiday with a knot in my stomach and this quiet promise to myself: if they ignored me again, I wasn't just going to swallow it and pretend everything was fine. So, Thanksgiving rolls around. My mom texted me the week before, not to ask how I was or if I was bringing anyone, but to send me a list of things she wanted me to make and bring. No, please, no, can you? Just. You'll bring mashed potatoes and a green bean casserole. Come early so you can help set the table. I told myself I'd go. I'd be polite, but I wouldn't overextend myself trying to please everyone like I usually do. I got up early on Thanksgiving morning, cooked the dishes she'd assigned me, and drove over to my parents' house with this weird mix of dread and determination humming under my skin. What I didn't know yet was that this Thanksgiving would be the one where I stopped being invisible by making sure everyone in that room finally heard me. When I walked into my parents' house, arms full of hot dishes, my mom didn't say hi or, "How are you?" She just glanced at the food and said, "Good, put that in the kitchen. We're behind on the turkey." No hug. No, "Thanks for cooking." Just straight to work. I slipped off my coat, set the dishes down, and asked if she needed help with anything specific. She handed me a pile of plates and said, "Just set the kids' table in the living room. We'll do the main table later." Then she turned away to fuss over the turkey and talk to my aunt about how stressful hosting was. Family members started arriving one by one. My brother, of course, walked in like a celebrity entering a party. My dad practically shouted his name from the kitchen, my mom rushed out to hug him, and everyone gathered around to hear about his new project at work. I was standing 10 feet away, folding napkins, and not one person acknowledged that I'd been there for an hour already. At some point, my aunt came over, kissed me on the cheek in a distracted way, and immediately launched into, "Have you heard about Mark's bonus? He's doing so well. Your parents must be so proud." I said, "Yeah, that's great," and tried to say something about a certification I'd recently completed for my own job. She nodded vaguely, didn't ask a single question, and then turned to yell across the room, "Mark, come tell us about that big client you landed." I felt that familiar sting in my chest, but I tried to brush it off. I kept telling myself, "Just get through dinner. You can go home later and decompress." We all gathered in the dining room before the meal so my dad could say a few words, like he always does. He clinked his glass and started his usual little speech about being thankful for family, health, and having everyone together under one roof. Then he said, "I'm especially thankful this year for Mark's success. He's been working so hard and we're just over the moon about where he's headed." He mentioned my brother's name 3 times. My name didn't come up once. I stood there, literally in the same room, and listened to my father talk about being thankful for everyone, while clearly only seeing one of his kids. It was like I was a ghost holding a plate. When it was time to sit down, I went to take a seat at the main table, where there was an open chair next to my cousin. Before I could pull the chair out, my mom rushed over and put her hand on my arm. "Oh no, honey, that's for Uncle Dan. We're short a seat this year. Can you just sit at the card table with the kids? You're good with them, and we need space here for the adults." She said it in this casual, matter-of-fact way, like it was the most logical thing in the world that her 2 7-year-old daughter should be bumped to the kids' table so some uncle could have a more comfortable seat. I looked over at the kids' table, 3 under 12 cousins, plastic cups, and a wobbly folding chair. I just froze for a second. I said, "You want me to sit at the kids' table? Really?" My mom frowned like I was the one being unreasonable. "It's not a big deal. Don't make this a thing. You're fine. We're already behind schedule." I sat down at the kids' table because I didn't want to cause a scene right then, but inside, something shifted. I watched as my parents poured wine for the adults, laughed, passed dishes around, and took photos of the whole family at the big table without me in the frame, because the cousins and I weren't even invited to stand up for the group picture. At one point, my dad literally said, "Okay, let's get a nice shot of the family." And when my aunt offered, "Should the kids come in?" he said, "Nah, we'll do one with just the adults first." No one called me over. I was technically an adult, but not in their minds, apparently. Sitting there, cutting turkey into tiny pieces for my youngest cousin, I realized that if I left that house without saying anything, I was agreeing again that I was okay being treated like background noise in my own family. I thought about all the years of being overlooked, the graduation they skipped, the birthdays they forgot, the times they said, "We're so proud of our kids," and meant only my brother, the therapy sessions where I cried about never feeling like enough. And then I thought, if I don't speak up now, when every single relative is here to see how they treat me, when am I ever going to? So after everyone had eaten most of their food and the conversation was buzzing, I stood up from the kids' table, took a deep breath, and walked over to the main table. I picked up my water glass and gently tapped it with my fork. The clinking cut through the noise. And slowly, heads turned. My dad looked confused. My mom looked annoyed, like I was interrupting her story. My brother was mid-laugh, holding a glass of wine. I said, as steadily as I could, "Since we're all here and Dad was talking about family earlier, there's something I've been wanting to say for a long time." You could feel the shift in the room. A couple of people looked curious. My mom immediately stiffened. My dad muttered, "Can this wait until later?" under his breath. I shook my head. No, if I don't say it now, I know I'll never get the chance again. My hands were shaking a little, but my voice came out clearer than I expected. "I've spent most of my life feeling like a guest in this family," I started. Actually, that's not even accurate. Guests get greeted at the door. Guests get asked how they are. I've spent most of my life feeling invisible in this family. A few people shifted uncomfortably. My aunt looked down at her plate. My cousin's eyes went wide. I continued, "Every holiday, every birthday, every family moment. It's like there's this spotlight that only ever shines on one person, and the rest of us are expected to clap and smile from the shadows." My brother rolled his eyes and said, "Oh my God, is this about me again?" under his breath. I looked straight at him. "It's about patterns, and if the shoe fits, you can wear it." My mom hissed, "This is not the time or place for this." I replied, "It's literally the only time and place where everyone who needs to hear it is actually present." I turned back to the table and said, "Do you know how many of you even know what I do for a living? Or where I live? Or what I've been dealing with this year?" I'm going to guess not many, because no one ever asks. I show up with food. I help in the kitchen. I get bumped to the kids' table so an uncle can have my chair, and I watch as Dad says he's thankful for his family while only talking about my brother. You could have heard a pin drop. I took a breath and kept going. When I graduated college, no one came. When I got a promotion, nobody knew. When I was struggling so hard, I had to go to therapy to figure out why I feel like I don't matter. Not one of you noticed I was pulling away. But if Mark sneezes too loud, it's an emergency group text and a prayer chain. My dad snapped, "That's enough. You're making everyone uncomfortable." I said, "I've been uncomfortable for 27 years. You all can survive 5 minutes." I wasn't yelling. I was actually very calm. Maybe that's what scared them the most. I explained how it felt to be asked to sit with the kids while people I barely see get the real seats. How it felt to watch them take a family photo without anyone even thinking to call my name. How it felt to be treated more like free labor and an afterthought than a daughter. Then I said, "I'm not saying any of this because I want you to suddenly shower me with attention. I'm saying it because I need you to hear this out loud. At least once. The way you treat me is not normal. And it's not okay. You have made it very clear, over and over, that I am optional in this family. And I'm finally starting to believe you." My mom was crying at this point, but not the sad, reflective kind of tears, more like angry, "How dare you do this here" tears. She said, "We have always done our best for you. This is so ungrateful." I looked at her and said, "If this is your best, it's not enough. And calling out how I've been treated doesn't make me ungrateful. It makes me honest." My brother jumped in aggressively. "You're just jealous. You've always been jealous. I work hard. If Mom and Dad are proud of me, that's not my fault." I nodded slowly. "You do work hard. That's not what this is about. This is about the fact that, in this house, it feels like there's only room for one real person at a time. And it's never me." One of my cousins, who's a bit older and has always been more observant, actually spoke up. She said quietly, "You know, she's not wrong. I've noticed it too. Every time she tries to say something, someone talks over her. Every story is about Mark. I always thought it was weird." My dad snapped at her. "Stay out of this. This is family business." She shot back. "We are family. You just heard her say she feels like she isn't, and now you're proving her point." That was the moment I realized I wasn't completely crazy. At least one person had seen it. My mom said, "So what? You want us to throw you a party? You want a speech? You're ruining Thanksgiving over hurt feelings." I shook my head. "No, I'm not ruining anything. I'm finally refusing to pretend that everything is okay when it's not. I'm tired of showing up to a performance where I don't have a role except background extra." I put my glass down and said, "I'm not doing this anymore. Not like this. If you want me in your life, actually in it, then something has to change. You have to start seeing me as a full person, not just the kid who takes care of things quietly in the background." Nobody said anything for a full 10 seconds. Then my dad said, in that cold, authoritative voice he uses when he thinks the conversation is over, "If you're going to make a scene, maybe you shouldn't come to family gatherings at all." I almost laughed at how perfectly he proved my point. "Okay," I said. "If that's how you feel, then I won't." I went back to the living room, grabbed my coat and my bag, and told my little cousins goodbye. One of them hugged me and asked, "Are you leaving already?" I said, "Yeah, I think I need to." I walked past the dining room one last time. No one tried to stop me. No one followed me out. I drove home in complete silence, alternating between shaking with adrenaline and crying from a mix of grief and relief. In the days after, my phone blew up. My mom sent long messages about how I had embarrassed them, how I'd ruined Thanksgiving and made her look like a bad mother in front of the extended family. My dad said I was dramatic and ungrateful. My brother texted me some truly nasty things about how I'd always been a burden, and how I was lucky they even invited me. But here's the thing. A few other relatives reached out quietly to say they understood why I did it, that they'd seen the favoritism for years and hadn't known how to bring it up. One cousin actually said, "You just said what a lot of us were thinking." Right now, I'm on very low contact with my parents and brother. I didn't go home for Christmas. Instead, I did a Friendsgiving-style holiday with people who actually care about me, ask about my life, and listen to my answers. I won't pretend it doesn't hurt. It does. It hurts to accept that the family you were born into may never see you the way you need to be seen. It hurts to wonder if maybe you went too far, or if there was a calmer, less messy way to handle it. That's why I'm sharing this like a Reddit family story. After years of being ignored, I finally said something at Thanksgiving. I called out the favoritism, the emotional neglect, and the way I've been treated like an optional extra for most of my life. In doing so, I probably blew up whatever illusion of normal we had left. So, I want to know what you think. Was I wrong for choosing a family holiday and calling everyone out in front of the whole room? Should I have stayed quiet for the sake of keeping the peace? Or was this the only way I was ever going to be heard? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more stories like this, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more Reddit-style family drama and Thanksgiving disasters.